DESTINATOR by Michael Doan, narrated by Jane Diva, Precious. September 17, 2022, 12:10 afternoon. Chapter 3. The Uninterrupted Biblical Year, Adamic Year Count, from Adam to the Fall of Jerusalem, Destruction of the Holy Temple in Nebuchadnezzar's reign. There is a need to arrange the chronological series of the count of years recorded in the Holy Bible from Adam to the fall of Jerusalem, destruction of the Holy Temple in Nebuchadnezzar's reign, in accordance with the accompanying events and circumstances affecting people and places, thus arriving at a formal historical approach in presentation. Whenever the Holy Bible speaks about a year, it must be in the concept of human stage of knowledge about the marking or indication of the passage of time on the basis of their then prevailing method. The accuracy insofar as their era is concerned is satisfied, yet wanting when presented before us in this age as it is measured against the solar year count, which is longer in length or duration. The difference in this particular aspect should not in any way disrupt the continuous recorded time flow count in the first stage. Rather, these figures or numerical accumulations have to be evaluated and marked using our latest knowledge supplied by science and technology. We now have the means to devise the most practical and precise method of calendar. The biblical years to be computed herein initially would contain the numerical count based on the Hebrew manner. Method of calendar count as related to the religious significance. Strictly based on what appear in the biblical accounts, it is considering the following. In Genesis chapter 8, verse 14, by the 27th day of the second month, the earth was completely dry. Note that this record mentions the count of 27th day, and it is the highest known numerical count for the days in a given month per reports in the Holy Bible. We must relate this to what is recorded in 1 Kings chapter 4 verse 7. Solomon appointed 12 men as district governors in Israel. They were to provide food from their districts for the king in his household, each man being responsible for 1 month out of the year. Here, the record shows that there were 12 months in a year on the basis of the 12 persons assigned as district governors for 12 months of the year. 1 person, governor for every 1 month, providing the food supply from their individual place or district for the king in his household. Also, recorded in 1 Chronicles chapter 27, verses 1 to 15, this is the list of the Israelites, heads of families, and clan members and their officials who administered the work of the kingdom. Each month of the year, a different group of 24,000 men was on duty under the commander for that month. The following were the commanders for each month. First month, Jashobim, son of Sabdil. He was a member of the clan of Peres, a part of the tribe of Judah. Second month, Dodai, a descendant of Ahudi. Mikloth was his second in command. Third month, Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, the priest. He was the leader of the 30. His son Amizabad succeeded him as commander of this group. Fourth month, Asahel, brother of Joab. His son Jebediah succeeded him. Fifth month, Shamhoth, a descendant of Izhar. Sixth month, Ira, son of Ikish, from Tekoa. Seventh month, Heliz, an Ishpramite from Pilon. Eighth month, Zebekai, from Hosha. He was a member of the clan of Zerah, a part of the tribe of Judah. 9th month, Abizar, from Anathoth, in the territory of the tribe of Benjamin. 10th month, Maharai, from Netophah. He was a member of the clan of Zerah. 11th month, Benaiah, from Perathon, in the territory of the tribe of Ephraim. 12th month, Hildai, from Netophah. He was a descendant of Othniel. Again, clearly we can establish the fact that indeed there was a count of 1 year with 12 months during those times. There being no record to base the numerical count of the exact number of days in 1 month as used by the Israelites, except that mentioning the 27th day during Noah's time. It is practical to have this 27th day count to reach the 28th day mark in 1 month in direct relation to the important Sabbath observance in the series of sevens. There are only 4 sevens or Sabbath weeks in 1 month, and this naturally would govern for the calendar of the people at that time. Whatever the number of years counted from Adam to the fall of Jerusalem, destruction of the Holy Temple during Nebuchadnezzar's reign, the difference in relation to our solar year of 365 days and several hours can be resolved and presented in a more acceptable integrated system of calendar. The shortness in duration or length of time of the biblical Adamic year count in direct relation to our solar year will not disturb the continuity in the count of years and the consistency of the factual events as recorded in the Holy Bible. The reconciliation and integration of the biblical year, Adamic year count, and the solar year count is made possible and treated exhaustively in a separate chapter. We must be thankful that there are available records in the Holy Bible which are the uninterrupted, continuous numerical count of the years from which we can proceed with accuracy and precision to compute the passage or flow of time in human history. Adam, from 0-1 year, fathered Seth at the age of 130 years. It also indicated the year when Seth was born. From here on, the years could now be marked or indicated as the Adamic year count. Seth was born in the Adamic year, AY 130. All the next following blood descendants of Adam and their respective birth years are presented continuously. Abraham was born in 1949 Adamic year and lived for 175 years and died in 2124 AY. Simply counting from Adam's age of 130 years when he fathered Seth, indicated mark as 130 years Adamic year to Abraham's death in 2124 AY. There were 2,124 years in the unbroken line of Adam's descendants. Before Abraham died, he fathered Isaac in 2049 AY. See Genesis 21:5 for the age of Abraham when Isaac was born. Isaac lived for 180 years and died in 2229 AY. See Genesis 35:28-29 for the age of Isaac when he died. Before Isaac died, he fathered Jacob and Esau, the twins, and they were born in 2109 AY. See Genesis 25:24-26 for the birth year of the twins. The age of Isaac when Jacob and Esau were born. Jacob lived for 147 years and died in 2256 AY. See Genesis 47:28-29 for the age of Jacob when he died. Before Jacob died, he fathered Joseph, one of his 12 children. See Genesis 35:24 and 1 Chronicles 2:1-2 for the number of children that Jacob had. Joseph was born in 2205 AY and lived for 110 years and died in 2315 AY. See Genesis 50:22 and 26 for the age of Joseph when he died. When Joseph was 17 years old in 2222 AY, he was sold as a slave by his brothers and brought to Egypt. See Genesis 37:1-28 for the age of Joseph when he was sold as a slave and he was able to enter Egypt. Joseph was reunited with his father Jacob in his family during the years of famine. This reunion took place 17 years after Joseph was sold as a slave, and Joseph was already 34 years old during that family reunion of 70 people. See Genesis 45:1-28 and Genesis 46:1-31 for the records of that dramatic family reunion. So, from Joseph's birth year in 2205 AY, plus his age of 34 years, it was already 2239 AY when the reunion took place. At that time, Jacob was also 130 years old. See Genesis 47:9 and 28 for Jacob's age of 130 years on that occasion. At this point in the flow of events, the 2239 AY year indicator marks the entry of the Israelites into Egypt and the land of Goshen. After Joseph died in 2315 AY, the succeeding rulers in Egypt treated the Israelites as slaves. See Genesis 50:22 and 26 for the age of Joseph when he died in Egypt. From this year 2315 AY, when Joseph died, the suffering of the Israelites began. It was in 2669 AY when the freedom of the Israelites from Egyptian bondage came, the end of their 430 years stay in Egypt. Moses led them out of Egypt as commanded by God, exactly on the 15th day of the first month called Abib or Nisan, 2669 AY. See Exodus 1 to 41, 51, Exodus 13, 4. For the event describing the freedom. Moses was born in 2589 AY. See Exodus 7:7 for the age of Moses at 80 years. On that very same day, the 15th day, first month Aviv, 2669 AY, the Egyptian king ordered his charioted warriors to pursue the fleeing Israelites, and it was during this day that God ordered Moses to hold his hand over the sea with his walking stick. The Lord drove the sea back with a strong east wind. It blew all night and turned the sea into dry land, and the Israelites walked on dry ground and were saved from the Egyptian soldiers who were drowned by the waters just before dawn when God ordered the waters to go back. See Exodus chapter 14 verses 15 to 30 for this very significant event. Right after the parting of the Red Sea, Moses led the Israelites into the desert of Shur. Then they went to Elim. On the 15th day, second month, 2669 AY, after they had left Egypt, they came to the desert of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai. The people complained of starvation and asked for meat. In the evening of the 15th day, a large flock of quails flew and covered the camp. And in the morning of the 16th day, second month, 2669 AY, manna as food was given by God to the complaining Israelites. On the 6th day, now being the 21st day, second month, 2669 AY, they gathered twice as much food for one day, and the next day they were commanded by God to rest, being a holy day. This is the 17th day, the 22nd day, second month, 2669 AY. Notice that this is the very first observance of the Sabbath by the Israelites in the desert and before of the public declaration by God of the Ten Commandments. See Exodus chapter 60 verses 1 to 30. On the first day of the third month, 2669 AY, after they left Egypt, they came to the desert of Sinai, and Moses was called by God into the mountain of Sinai and was given instructions for the Israelites to follow. The first day and the second day of the third month, 2669 AY, were days of purification and preparation for meeting God at Mount Sinai. See Exodus chapter 19 verses 10 to 15. On the third day, third month, 2669 AY, in the morning, amidst thunder and lightning, a thick cloud appeared on Mount Sinai, with smoke covering it, and God came down on it with fire. On that same day, God spoke with a thunderous voice and proclaimed His 10 commandments before the Israelites. See Exodus chapter 19 verses 16 to 25 and Exodus 21 to 18. In this particular narration, the computations of years reach the date 2669, Adamic year, in direct connection with the recorded 430 years of Israelites' slavery and stay in Egypt. The fact must be remembered that the Israelites were treated not as slaves when they entered Egypt, and it happened during the reunion of Joseph and Jacob and the 70 Israelites. From that unforgettable freedom day for the Israelites when the 430th year of their stay in Egypt ended on the 15th day, second month, 2669 AY. We are fortunate to read another dated recorded event in the Holy Bible. This particular report is a continuing count of the years concerning the Israelites as appearing in the first book of Kings, chapter 6, verse 1. 480 years after the people of Israel left Egypt, and during the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel. In the 2nd month of Zin, Solomon began work on the temple. This dated account makes possible the continuous dating or marking of the flow of time, such that we know the Israelites left Egypt on the 15th day, 1st month, 2669 AY, and by just moving forward to our age by 480 years as recorded in 1 King chapter 6 verse 1, we arrive at 3149 AY. Significantly, the work on the temple began during the 4th year of Solomon's rule, and the records show that Solomon ruled for 40 years. From the 2nd month of Zib in 3149 AY, we can move backward by 4 years to reach the 1st year when Solomon began his rule, being in the year 3145 AY. Then, by simply moving forward to our age by 40 years of his reign, we arrive at 3185 AY when Solomon ended his rule. We can also read related records in the 1st book of Kings, chapter 6, verses 37 to 38. The foundation of the temple was laid in the 2nd month, the month of Zib, in the 4th year of Solomon's reign. In the 8th month, the month of Bul, in the 11th year of Solomon's reign. The temple was completely finished exactly as it had been planned. It had taken Solomon 7 years to build it. From 3185 AY, when the 40th year of Solomon's rule ended, the nation of Israel was divided into two kingdoms. The southern kingdom of Judah, with Jerusalem as capital, and the northern kingdom of Israel, with Samaria as its capital. In Judah, the continuous uninterrupted line of succession from Solomon provides the count of the number of years until the fall of Jerusalem and the destruction of the temple. From Solomon, here's the line of succession of rulers and the number of years they ruled. 1. Solomon's son Rehoboam was 21 years old when he began to rule in Judah, and ruled for 17 years. See 1 Kings chapter 14, verse 21, and 2 Chronicles chapter 9, verse 31. So, from 3185 AY, end of Solomon's rule, and the start of Rehoboam's rule, add 17 years, length of Rehoboam's rule, we move forward to 3202 AY, also the end of Rehoboam's rule. See 1 Kings chapter 14 verse 31 and 2 Chronicles chapter 12 verse 16. Incidentally, by moving 21 years backward from 3185 AY, we can determine the birth year of Rehoboam in 3164 AY. 2. Abijah, son of Rehoboam, with no given age when he began to rule for 3 years, would give us the date 3202 AY, the start of Abijah's rule plus 3 years 3205 AY, end of Abijah's rule. See 1 Kings chapter 15 verses 1 to 2, 2 Chronicles chapter 13 verses 1 to 2, 1 Kings chapter 15 verse 8, and 2 Chronicles chapter 14 verse 1. 3. Asa, son of Abijah, with no age given when he began his rule for 41 years. See 1 Kings chapter 15 verses 8 to 9 and 2 Chronicles chapter 14 verse 1. And so, from 3205 AY, start of Asa's rule, plus 41 years, we move to 3246 AY, end of Asa's rule. See 1 Kings chapter 15 verse 24 and 2 Chronicles chapter 16 verse 12 to 13. 4. Jehoshaphat, son of Asa, was 35 years old when he began to rule for 25 years. See 1 Kings chapter 15 verse 24, chapter 22 verses 41 to 42, and 2 Chronicles chapter 20 verse 31. And so, from 3246 AY, the start of Jehoshaphat's rule plus 25 years, we move to 3271 AY, end of Jehoshaphat's rule. See 1 Kings chapter 22 verse 50 and 2 Chronicles chapter 21 verse 1. Moving 35 years back from 3246 AY would be the birth year of Jehoshaphat in 3211 AY. 5. Jehoram, son of Jehoshaphat, was 32 years old when he began to rule for 8 years. See 1 Kings chapter 22 verse 50, 2 Chronicles chapter 21 verse 20, and 2 Kings chapter 8 verse 16 to 17. And so, from 3271 AY, start of Jehoram's rule plus 8 years, we move to 3279 AY and end of Jehoram's rule. See 2 Kings chapter 8 verse 24 and 2 Chronicles chapter 21 verse 20. Moving 32 years backward, from 3271 AY, we arrive at the birth year of Jehoram in 3239 AY. 6. Ahaziah, son of Jehoram, was 22 years old when he began to rule for 1 year only. See 2 Kings chapter 8 verses 25 to 36 and 2 Chronicles chapter 22 verses 1 to 3. And so, from 3279 AY, start of Ahaziah rule plus 1 year, we move to 32 AY, end of Ahaziah's rule. See 2 Kings chapter 9 verses 27 to 28 and 2 Chronicles chapter 22 verse 9. Moving 22 years backward from 3279 AY, we arrived at the birth year of Ahaziah in 3257 AY. 7. Note: In 2 Chronicles chapter 22 verse 9, last sentence, no member of Ahaziah's family was left who could rule the kingdom. Continuing the verses 10 to 12, as soon as King Ahaziah's mother, Athaliah, learned of her son's murder, she gave orders for all the members of the royal family of Judah be killed. Ahaziah had a half-sister, Jehosheba, who was married to a priest named Jehoiada. She secretly rescued one of Ahaziah's sons, Joash, took him away from the other princes who were about to be murdered, and hid him and a nurse in a bedroom at the temple by keeping him hidden. She saved him from death at the hands of Athaliah. For 6 years, he remained there in hiding, while Athaliah ruled as queen. So from 3280 AY, starts of Athaliah's rule plus 6 years, we move to 3286 AY, ends of Athaliah's rule. See 2 Chronicles chapter 23 verse 15 and 2 Kings chapter 11 verses 15 to 16. 8. Joash, son of Ahaziah, was 7 years old when he began to rule for 40 years. See 2 Chronicles chapter 24 verse 1 and 2 Kings chapter 12 verse 1. And so, from 3286 AY, start of Joash's rule plus 40 years, we move to 3226 AY, end of Joash's rule. See 2 Chronicles 29, 25, and verse 27. And 2 Kings chapter 12, verses 20 to 21. Moving 7 years backward, from 3286 AY would be the birth year of Joash in 3279 AY. 9. Amaziah, son of Joash, was 25 years old when he began to rule for 29 years. See 2 Chronicles chapter 25 verse 1 and 2 Kings chapter 14 verses 1 to 2. And so, from 2336 AY, start of Amaziah's rule, plus 29 years, we move to 2355 AY, end of Amaziah's rule. See 2 Chronicles chapter 25 verse 27 and 2 Kings chapter 14 verses 19 to 20. Moving 25 years backward from 3326 AY would be the birth year of Amaziah in 3301 AY. Uzziah, son of Amaziah, was 16 years old when he began to rule for 52 years. See 2 Chronicles chapter 26 verse 3 and 2 Kings chapter 15 verses 1 to 2. And so, from 3355 AY, start of Uzziah's rule, plus 52 years, we move to 3407 AY, end of Uzziah's rule. See 2 Chronicles chapter 26 verse 23 and 2 Kings chapter 15 verse 7. Moving 16 years backward from 3355 AY would be the birth year of Uzziah in 3339 AY. 11. Jotham, son of Uzziah, was 25 years old when he began to rule for 16 years. See 2 Chronicles chapter 27 verse 1 and 2 Kings chapter 15 verses 32 to 33. And so, from 3407 AY, start of Jotham's rule, plus 16 years, we move to 3423 AY, end of Jotham's rule. See 2 Chronicles 27:9 and 2 Kings chapter 15 verse 28. Moving 25 years backward from 3407 AY would be the birth year of Jotham and 3382 AY. 12. Ahaz, son of Jotham, was 20 years when he began to rule for 16 years. See 2 Chronicles chapter 28 verse 1 and 2 Kings chapter 16 verses 1 to 2. And so, from 3423 AY, start of Ahaz's rule, plus 16 years, we move to 3439 AY, end of Ahaz's rule. See 2 Chronicles chapter 28 verse 27 and 2 Kings chapter 16 verse 2. Moving 20 years backward from 3423 AY would be the birth year of Ahaz in 3403 AY. 13. Hezekiah, son of Ahaz, was 25 years old and he began to rule for 29 years. See 2 Chronicles chapter 29 verse 1 and 2 Kings chapter 18 verses 1 to 2. And so, from 3439 AY, start of Hezekiah's rule, plus 29 years, we move to 3468 AY, end of Hezekiah's rule. See 2 Chronicles chapter 32 verse 33 and 2 Kings chapter 20 verse 21. Moving 25 years backward, from 3439 AY would be the birth year of Hezekiah in 3414 AY. 14. Manasseh, son of Hezekiah, was 12 years old. He began to rule for 55 years. See 2 Chronicles chapter 33 verse 1 and 2 Kings chapter 21 verse 1. And so, from 3468 AY, start of Manasseh's rule, plus 55 years, we move to 3523 AY, end of Manasseh's rule. See 2 Chronicles chapter 33 verse 20 and 2 Kings chapter 21 verse 18. Moving 12 years backward from 3468 AY would be the birth year of Manasseh in 3456 AY. 15. Ammon, son of Manasseh, was 22 years old when he began to rule for 2 years. See 2 Chronicles chapter 33 verse 21 and 2 Kings chapter 21 verse 19. And so, from 3523 AY, start of Ammon's rule, plus 2 years, we move to 3525 AY, end of Ammon's rule. See 2 Chronicles chapter 33 verse 24 and 2 Kings chapter 21 verse 23. Moving 22 years backward, from 3501 AY would be the birth year of Ammon in 3521 AY. Josiah, son of Ammon, was 8 years old when he began to rule for 31 years. See 2 Chronicles chapter 34 verse 1 and 2 Kings chapter 22 verse 1. And so, from 3525 AY, start of Josiah's rule, plus 31 years, we move to 3556 AY, end of Josiah's rule. See 2 Chronicles chapter 35 verse 24 and 2 Kings chapter 23 verse 29. Moving 8 years backward, from 3525 AY would be the birth year of Josiah and 3517 AY. 17. Joas, son of Josiah, was 23 years old when he began to rule for 3 months. See 2 Chronicles chapter 36 verses 1 to 2 and 2 Kings chapter 23 verse 31. And so, from 3556 AY, start of Joah's rule, plus 3 months, we move to same 3556 AY, end of Joah's rule. See 2 Chronicles chapter 36 verses 3 to 4 and 2 Kings chapter 23 verse 34. Note, in 2 Chronicles chapter 36 verse 4, Necho made Joah's brother Eliakim king of Judah and changed his name to Jehoiakim. Moving 23 years backward, from 3556 AY would be the birth year of Joahaz in 3533 AY. 18. Jehoiakim or Eliakim, brother of Joahaz, was 25 years old when he began to rule for 11 years. See 2 Chronicles chapter 36 verse 5 and 2 Kings chapter 23 verse 34. And so, from 3556 AY, start of Jehoiakim's rule plus 11 years, we move to 3567 AY, end of Jehoiakim's rule. See 2 Chronicles chapter 36 verse 6. Nebuchadnezzar took him prisoner to Babylonia. See 2 Kings chapter 24 verse 6. Moving 25 years backward, from 3556 AY would be the birth year of Jehoiakim in 3531 AY. 19. Jehoiachin, son of Jehoiakim, Eliakim was 18 years old when he began to rule for 3 months, 10 days. See 2 Chronicles chapter 36 verse 9 and 2 Kings chapter 24 verse 8. And so, from 3567 AY, start of Jehoiachin's rule plus 3 months, 10 days, we move to same year 3567 AY, end of Jehoiachin's rule. He was also taken prisoner by Nebuchadnezzar. See 2 Chronicles chapter 36 verse 10 and 2 Kings chapter 24 verse 15. Moving 18 years backward, from 3567 AY would be the birth year of Jehoiachin in 3549 AY. We must take notice of the fact that from the end of Jehoiachin's rule in 3567 AY, the direct father to son succession ended. And 2 Chronicles chapter 36 verse 10, last sentence, then Nebuchadnezzar made Jehoiachin's uncle Mathaniah king of Judah and Jerusalem. See 2 Kings chapter 24 verse 17. 20. Zedekiah or Mathaniah, uncle of Jehoiachin, was 21 years old when he began his rule for 11 years. See 2 Kings 24 verse 17. And so, from 3567 AY, start of Zedekiah's rule plus 11 years, we move to 3578 AY. End of Zedekiah's rule, and significantly also the fall of Jerusalem and destruction of the Holy Temple. Zedekiah was taken prisoner by Nebuchadnezzar. See 2 Kings chapter 25 verse 7. Moving 21 years backward, from 3567 AY would be the birth year of Zedekiah, and 3546 AY. To be continued.